we're going to be having the newspaper review with Dr. Victor Ohai. Hello, good morning, Doctor.
Good morning.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. All right, on the newspaper review this morning, we'll be starting with the Daily Independent newspaper. The big headlines there on the Daily Independent says, manipulations in last by-elections won't repeat in 2027, PDP vows. That is the big headlines there. Still on the newspaper, Nigeria spends $10 billion annually on food imports, federal government. That is that. By-election, Abure's trouble costs INEC to exclude us, Labour Party. A sub-writer said, targets 10 million in ambitious new membership drive. We're still on the Daily Independent newspaper. You get these on page 7. It says how federal government off stadium day in foods fell, health crisis by experts. You get that on page 7. Still on the newspaper, air passengers must switch off their phones during takeoff, landing, and CAA. You get that on page 6. A sub-writer said, why passengers are unruling by National Assembly. That is on page 6. 2027, we may join coalition, says NNPP. You get that on page 29 from the Daily Independent newspaper. Castina seeks Tinubu's help after bandits killed 13 worshippers. You get that still on page 29 from the Daily Independent newspaper. NESG lists how Nigerians could address economic challenges. That is for that. Okay, still on the Daily Independent newspaper, $18.5 billion Abuja City project resumes. MD woes foreign investors. You get that on page 6 from the Daily Independent newspaper. So we're going to be looking at the big headlines here, which says manipulations in the last by-election won't repeat itself in 2027. PDP vows. Dr. Ohai, your take on that?
As some would say never again. But I'm just wondering why. You know, this used to be what other parties would say about the PDP in the past, and it's interesting how what goes around comes around. I don't know about saying it won't happen in 2027. My question is, what were they doing when it happened this time? Didn't they think that anything that, you know, as usual, all parties would, if they can, manipulate? You know, so, but it's okay. At the end of the day, electoral integrity is in our best interest, which means that if all the parties decide that they must guard and protect their votes, then it's obviously it means that we'll get better results. But if it means they will try to outrig each other, then I don't know what that means for us.
So you literally think there were manipulations in the last by-election? Well,
there was no by-election in my area in Lagos, so I wouldn't know where. I was not on ground. But the people on ground, of course, they have made the allegations, and so it's not what I think, it's what the reports we get. People have claimed there are manipulations, but as always, losers will always claim, so winners will always say there was none. We don't, it doesn't matter what the party is, but we are not good losers in this country.
All right, thank you very much for that.
And none of the parties is free of manipulation and rigging, by the way.
Oh, interesting. Okay, and we're still on the newspaper review. We'll quickly move to the Nation newspaper. The big headlines there on the Nation newspaper says, government move to attract more foreign direct investment. That is the big headline there. And a sub-writer said, Africa's business interest steadily growing. NGF unveil in Vextopedian podium. That is for that. Still on the newspaper review, the Nation newspaper. Probe of 661 million naira courts freeze ex-NNPCL boss. That you get that on page 4 from the Nation newspaper. I'm still on page 5. Alafin versus Oni, who blinks first in Royal Rumble. You get that on page 5 from the Nation newspaper. Nigerian to demand reform of global financial system. That is for that. Still on the Nation newspaper, Ogun APC suspends Senator Daniel. You get that on page 3 from the Nation newspaper. NCAA invites Ibom Air Crew. Emerson, you get that on page 27 from the Nation newspaper. Owo Catholic Church attackers linked to foreign terror group. You get that on page 4 from the Nation newspaper. Okay, Dr. Ohai, let's quickly take a look at the headlines there, the big headlines there that says, government move to attract more foreign direct investments. What would you have to say about that?
Well, this is something we've always touted, the issue of direct foreign investment, making Nigeria an attractive destination for foreign investors. And you would expect that with the devaluation of the Naira, it should even be more attractive, because it means you can buy more for less now.
Yes.
You know, so less dollars will get more. But it doesn't appear to be the case. Over the last 10 years, what we have found is a situation where it has always been hovering around $2 billion, you know, and that's not so good. And I can tell you that in my interactions and conversations with diasporans and with people abroad, the problem is our country. See, we just pay lip service to it. Why do I say so? Even from immigrations, you are told that, you know, visa, you know, visa is, you know, easy to get to come to Nigeria. But I can tell you, Nigeria's visa is one of the hardest. Even the e-visa, because I've been involved in getting, you know, people coming into the country from non-Nigerians, and it's so difficult. You go to the website, it's almost impossible. You know, one way or another, the human element was coming, and then you begin to wonder why. You know, so from immigrations to why? Okay, let me give another example again. We talk about ease of doing business. In Rwanda, I registered the business in under 30 minutes. In under 30 minutes, I got my certificate sitting down. The only thing that took time was, and I could have done that before coming, is getting the code related to the type of business you want to do. Yeah. Once that is searched out, that's it. You get immediately you get it, and within the same Rwanda Business Council, the place where you do it, there is a bank. You can open your bank account immediately. I went there 8 a.m. Before 8:30, I had gotten it. By 11, between 11 or 12 noon, after I had gotten back to my hotel, they had sent my TIN, my tax identification number. That makes it so easy.
Very easy.
So, but in this country, people must create bottlenecks so that they can make money. It's just corruption that is killing doing business.
Thank you, Dr. Victor Ohai. Still on the newspaper review, we'll quickly look at the Vanguard newspaper. The Vanguard newspaper, the big headlines there says a U.S. report raises concern over security justice in Nigeria. That is the big headlines there from the Vanguard newspaper. Okay, a sub-writer said, identified lengthy pre-trial detention delays as major challenges. That is for that. Another sub-writer said, notes 70,000 minimum wage has lost value to fallen Naira. Another sub-writer said, U.S. government praises us for arresting Ansari leaders just recently. Presidency. Another sub-writer says issues with judiciary security, Naira being addressed. That is for that. Okay, still on the headlines, we recorded 331 cases for rights violation, 375 killing in July, NHRC. You get that on page 6 from the Vanguard newspaper. Still on the Vanguard newspaper, 2027, Amechi's presidential bid dead on arrival. Wiki. You get that on page 11. Still on the newspaper, NBA writes AGF demands release of Osun local government funds. You get that on page 10. Bandits killed 13 worshippers in Castina Mosque. You get that on page 26 from the Vanguard newspaper. NCAA summons Ibom Air cabin crew Emerson for further investigation. You get that on page 9. Alafi's ultimatum, empty threats for dead empires. Onis Spokesman. You get that on page 10 from the Vanguard newspaper. Abuja court freezes 4 bank accounts linked to ex-NNPCL box. You get that on page 6 from the Vanguard newspaper. Vision Restore, how Vanguard is challenging lives. You get that on page 7 from the Vanguard newspaper. Okay, that is all on the headlines this morning. Dr. Victor Ohai, let's take a look at this big headlines that says U.S. report raises concern over security justice in Nigeria. Let's talk about that.
Okay, so the U.S. reports raises concerns over
security justice in Nigeria.
We don't even need a U.S. report to be concerned about it. It's just that our consciences have been seared in this country. I've seen at least 2 videos where, I'm sorry to say, thank God I'm not showing the pictures, but where Nigerians are slaughtered like goats, you know, like chicken. People, terrorists or bandits or whatever, holding back the neck of fellow Nigerian human beings and slaughtering them blood, you know. And I begin to wonder, is government not aware, or are we protecting the people from government from seeing these things? And yet nothing is happening, you know. There is a need. I mean, you cannot travel so freely anymore. People go, it takes a lot of guts. You have to before you do,
the
especially by road.
Yes,
it's getting worse. Every government after government have always ridden to power by promising to settle the security problem. As soon as they get there, the only security is their financial security. Human lives are still... What happens in this country, if it happens anywhere else, it will make headlines globally. 5 people shot in somewhere in America will make headlines. But not here. People are killed every day since the Chibok girls. No major headlines anymore because it has become normal. Should it be so? It doesn't take America to remind us about it. We should accept that, like I said, we have been desensitized right now. It's like, oh, it's become statistics for another 10 dead, another 20 killed, you know, in a village and all that. It shouldn't be the case.
The government are not concerned about it.
It does not appear to be concerned. Maybe there is, but we don't see it. Because I've heard soldiers say, and listen to them say that if they want an end to terrorism today, it can be done. And the people I say that those who will put an end to it, I'm not talking about the officers, the people on the field, they know what they are capable of doing. But perhaps it's in the interest of the officers and perhaps those in government for security not to end so that they can continue to budget, allocate huge amounts to security, unfortunately.
Interesting. The issue of insecurity has been one major problem we've been facing in this country, and we just hope it gets to end soon because we Nigerians, ordinary Nigerians, you know, we've been having this particular issue for a very long time, and we don't know. The government just needs to look about it because we keep talking about it over and over again. And
did you see the video? Sorry, just quickly, just drop this because it's related to Edo State. The children who were kidnapped in, I don't know if it's Epom or wherever, you know, school kids, and I can't imagine what this is going to do to their mind. Even when they do come out, as I hope they will, they were giving them skulls to hold. School kids under 12, 13, skulls of dead persons, you know, holding it, and then doing videos to make compare. It was a Catholic, is it bishop or priest that was asking for help, that these kids should be rescued. Do we have to get to this point? It's sad.
Interesting. I just hope things get better. All right, we're still on the newspaper review. We'll quickly look at the sports news, the Sports Extra this morning. Punch Sports Extra, the big headlines there says Atalanta way Lookman sanction. Bansley as Wankali over lateness. That is for that. Still on the headline. You get that on page 6 from the Punch Sports Extra newspaper. The Tigers battle Senegal for AfroBasket semi-final sports. You get that on page 2 from the newspaper this morning. Omotoyosi dies at 39. You get that on page 8. Saka loses penalty rolls. You get that on page 5 from the newspaper. Salah wins 2025 PFA award. You get that on page 4. Tottenham agrees 60 million pounds AZ transfer. You get that on page 4 from the Punch Extra newspaper. Still on the newspaper, Nathaniel Vows stronger showing at World Champ. You get that on page 2. And also Valencia suicided. Rich Sadiq's agreements. You get that on page 8. Okay, Dr. Ohai, let's talk about Atalanta way Lookman section.
What is happening? I don't know what it is between the Italian football clubs and Nigerians, especially exceptional Nigerian footballers. It happened first with what's his name now, Osimhen, and then he was disrespected, and then at the end of the day he had to leave. He refused to play because the way things happened to him. Now, in this case, Lookman, after winning African Footballer of the Year last year, one would expect that his club would at least show him some respect, but that's not the case. They have decided to just embarrass him because he missed a penalty, and he has a record of having missed only 2 penalties, in his professional career. The other was in another club in Fulham, I think, when he was in Fulham. And then you come and you say he's the worst penalty taker and all that. Meanwhile, he had scored a goal in that same match. And so, there's a lot of problem between them now, and he's decided to just leave them. What sparked this was because they had a gentleman's agreement that he was going to leave, during this season if a good offer comes. Inter made a good offer, and then they have refused to let him go. Obviously, his mind is already off that team, and then so there's a stalemate right now, and because he has refused to train with them, there's problem. And I think that the relationship can never be the same. They should just find a way to settle, but he obviously cannot play for Atalanta anymore.
Oh, thank you so much, Dr. Victor Ohai, for coming for this section. We're still on TMI this morning on ITV. We'll be handing over to our Benin Network studio for the continuation on TMI. I am Marcelina Umkwa. Stay tuned.